Tonight on CBC Vancouver News. Amid the devastation in Turkey and Syria, a life saved.
Just an incredible moment. This happened Monday. She's been in that building for days.
And the BC rescuers who helped.
The team effort here was really something else.
Plus, where are the drugs?
This problem is not going to go away.
Some popular antibiotics are hard to come by in BC pharmacies. And more support for newcomers.
Talking is our medicine.
A local food bank is launching a helpline in English and Punjabi.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. Anita is away tonight. 4 days after an earthquake devastated southern Turkey and northern Syria, people are still stuck under the rubble while search crews frantically work around the clock. Earlier today, there was some hope. A Burnaby search and rescue team volunteering in Turkey helped pull a woman out of a collapsed building in the city of Aviation. The CBC's Briar Stewart was there live as it happened.
You can only imagine what the woman trapped under all of this has been living through for more than 4 days, and what it must feel like to know that help is so very, very close.
It's complicated. You can't really see what's going on in there. They're probably about 30 or 40 feet in the slab. So.
It's been 3 hours since the Turkish team first made contact with the woman. They were able to find her exact location with the help of some equipment the Canadians brought.
It's essentially it's an infrared camera that we can extend it and push it into a void space so we can get a better look, and then we can articulate this around.
The woman is trapped in her bedroom, as so many others were when the quake hit in the middle of the night, but miraculously escaped the crush of when this apartment building collapsed, violently throwing entire lives to the ground. Which is why this is such a remarkable moment.
It's like no other call I've been on.
Yeah, me neither. So it's a very special moment and it's very humbling.
They're able to give her food and water, but can't yet get close enough to pull her out.
She can talk.
Oh, yeah.
She's very, very good.
But she can't move out. She can't move past the door.
No move, no.
Okay. So you need to move more rubble. You need to move more to the concrete. Yeah. Let us know if you need anything. They're able to touch her. There is a door that's on top of her, so they're just trying to remove the obstruction so she can move around. But she is able to talk. She says she's okay.
But until she's out, there's fear on the faces of loved ones. The team struggles to reach her. They want a hydraulic lift, but no one has one. So they have to try another route by crawling underneath the building. Courageous work that's taking place all across southeastern Turkey. More than 6 hours after they made contact, there's finally enough space to free her. The crowd seems to hold their breath as they look on. Again, just an incredible moment. This happened Monday. She's been in that building for days, freezing. As soon as she's out, she's wrapped in a blanket and given oxygen, and rushed to an ambulance and then the hospital. It's a rare moment of joy at a very dismal time. They were all trying to get a photo of themselves after the rescue, so we want to get out of the way. We don't want to be in the photo. Dimitri and I are going to move over here. Excuse me, sorry. We're just going to come over here and join our Canadians. Thank you. Very, very good work. Thank you. Good work, everybody. Thank you.
Where are you from?
I'm from Canada.
Canada. Oh.
How does it feel to bring her out?
I am happy. We are happy.
He says he's thankful to the Canadian friends for helping us bring a survivor out after 108 hours. What is it like to finally see the moment of her coming out?
Oh, it's incredible. It's such a rare event that you actually have somebody that can survive these conditions.
There are hugs and a few group photos, but there isn't much time to celebrate.
All right, let's get another one.
There are too many other buildings to get to. They just hope that some of those searches will be able to end in the same way.
Briar Stewart reporting from Turkey. Coming up later, we'll take a closer look at both the devastation and the rescue efforts in Syria as well as Turkey. Back in this province, it has been 15 months since floods tore through the Fraser Valley and BC interior, displacing hundreds of people. Now the city of Merritt is showing off new temporary homes. As Tom Popick reports, officials hope to encourage more people to move back home.
This is a homecoming for Valerie, Stacy, and her family.
I'm excited about it. I think we all are excited.
Even if it isn't the exact house she'll move into.
This is pretty well what this place looks like.
Instead, she toured a model home, one of 31 temporary manufactured homes purchased for around $200,000 each with $24 million in provincial funding. It's the first phase of the First BC program to get hundreds of flood-displaced residents back into their communities.
I do want to say welcome home, and maybe we get everybody to say welcome home. Welcome home. Welcome home, Al.
For Merritt Mayor Mike Getz,
it's the first good news story we've had in almost 18 months.
Devastating floodwaters damaged more than 600 homes in this interior town. Half were demolished or require extensive repairs. 700 residents fled this destruction. At least 130 are still displaced. Levees and bridges here still need to be permanently repaired. With the threat of spring freshet flooding, there are fears some residents may never return. Getz calls this temporary home program a blueprint for other flood and fire-ravaged BC communities and those facing future climate change threats.
I think we will be used as a carbon copy of where this needs to happen if there's more global situations with weather. We're the test subject for it, so we have the expertise in this town now, and we do. We have some very smart, expert people here.
After living most of the past 15 months in a fifth-wheel mobile trailer, Valerie will move into her new home at the end of the month. The $1,300 a month below market rent will allow the family to rebuild. She says it's money well spent.
It keeps people in the town.
Just returning to Merritt.
Yes, it will be home.
For how long?
I'm hoping for good.
Brings stability after so much was swept away. Tom Popick, CBC News, Merritt.
Police in Metro Vancouver have yet another warning about scammers targeting seniors. Take a look. Both the Vancouver and New Westminster police departments have released surveillance video of suspects in prolific seniors scams. The fraudsters have allegedly been calling seniors saying a grandchild needs a lot of money for bail. The suspects then go to the victims' homes to collect the cash. New Westminster police describe one suspect as a man in his 30s, around 6'3", with shoulder-length black braids pulled back into a ponytail, as you can see. If you recognize him or anyone involved, you're asked to contact police. Police in Saanich have arrested a suspected impaired driver whose car looks like a police cruiser, complete with the flashing lights. Around 9 p.m. on Wednesday, police say the driver was driving erratically and very fast. The lights on top flashing, as you can see. It happened on the Trans-Canada Highway near the Burnside Road exit. As officers approached, police say they saw a young child sitting in the back. The driver was arrested for impaired driving and allegedly had drugs and a BB gun with them as well.
Driving at high speed, driving erratically, driving while impaired, and operating a vehicle appearing to be a police officer. It really is such a shocking file, not one that I've ever seen.
Charges have not yet been recommended. Abbotsford police are trying to find a suspect in 3 cases of mischief that caused thousands of dollars in damage to a cell phone tower. Police have released these photos to try to identify the person responsible. The site is at the end of Raven Court in a residential area. That's the tower there. The extensive damage happened in the evening hours of January 1st, 8th, and 12th. Police note damage to towers like this is concerning as it can affect emergency calls. The city of Burnaby is one step closer to building a $180 million green recycling and organic waste plant. But it may go up on dedicated parkland. As Janella Hamilton tells us, some residents are upset it could mean paving paradise.
When Paul Sapivnik is seeking refuge away from the busy city, he visits Burnaby's Fraser Foreshore Park.
It's just an amazing place. I've seen the bald eagles, red-tailed hawks, northern flickers.
But soon, that habitat and the species that live here may be threatened. The city of Burnaby wants to build a green recycling and organic waste facility known as GROW to process its own green waste, such as food scraps and yard trimmings for compost. The city of Burnaby says about about 21 acres of this wetland habitat would be cleared to make room for the proposed organic waste facility, but some residents say that could have a detrimental impact.
It's a part of the Fraser River estuary, and this is extremely fragile system.
Some residents like Josh Wong and his brother Arnold don't want to lose this space. They spent much of their childhood at this park, catching salamanders and fishing with their father. Memories Wong says he hopes to share with his son.
I won't be able to show him the same experiences I went through when I was a child because of this massive displacement that's happening.
Right now, the city transports the waste to North Delta. The city says the facility will reduce greenhouse emissions and produce enough renewable natural gas to heat 5,000 homes.
Now, what we've tried to do is position it as far away from the river's edge in the parkland and in areas of the park that are hopefully the least disruptive.
We really need to take care of even small spots like that.
In a statement, the city of Burnaby says to offset the land for the Grow facility, they're going to set aside new parkland elsewhere. But residents say the current land is already an ecological reserve.
If we just dig this place completely and drain it, so it's irreversible. It changed forever.
The city says space is limited and the park is the only feasible location. Construction is expected to start in 2024 with the facility up and running by 2026. The city says the public will have a chance to voice their concerns in the coming weeks, but some residents worry that could be too late. Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Burnaby.
The southbound lanes of 9th Street were shut down for most of today after a commercial truck hit an overpass, causing all sorts of traffic problems. Richmond RCMP says the truck was towing a dump trailer in the raised position when it smashed into the Canby Road overpass around 7 this morning. No one was hurt, but police say the crash caused a huge traffic headache. Mounties initially said the driver of the truck was cooperating, but later said they weren't. BC's population is growing fast, and to keep up with that growth, the province is introducing new funding to support municipal infrastructure development.
Decades of choices by previous governments to underinvest in critical infrastructure means we're facing an infrastructure deficit now. Communities don't have the roads, the arenas, the wastewater treatment facilities that we know we need.
The Growing Communities Fund is a one-time investment of $1 billion available to all of BC's municipalities and districts that will be used to build infrastructure and amenities like new roads, increased affordable housing, as well as improved recreation facilities. People of all ages, from kids to grandparents, gathered in front of Vancouver City Hall today demanding more action against climate change.
Climate action! When I say climate, you say justice! Climate justice!
They called on City Council to implement a strong climate emergency action plan that future generations can benefit from. Council will receive its annual update on the plan next week. The rally brought together people from 7 different groups, including the Canadian Association of Physicians for the Environment and the For Our Kids Vancouver.
What our government is doing is paying attention to people that vote, but they're not paying attention to the children and grandchildren.
We need to get involved. We need to get the city involved, the province involved, the federal government involved, and just be proactive.
Council approved its climate emergency action plan in October of 2020, but protesters have yet to see climate commitments and greenhouse gas reduction targets actually met. If you've been to a pharmacy in BC recently, you may have noticed some shelves are bare for adult cold and flu meds. But some pharmacists say antibiotics are also hard to find. Yasmin Gandam explains why.
The antibiotic amoxicillin is a first-line treatment for bacterial infections. It comes in pill or capsule form for adults and a powdered version for children to mix with water. But pharmacists say the medicine is tough to find right now.
It's come back into supply once or twice, but even then it's a little bit restricted as to what we can get. It's like a couple of bottles here and there.
Bain says it's on back order from wholesalers and he doesn't know when it will arrive.
I think the manufacturers just haven't caught up with the demand that increased this year.
As of February 8th, 8 companies are reporting amoxicillin shortages. Juno Pharmaceuticals is one of several manufacturers working closely with Health Canada to import more supply.
By the end of February, first week of March, there should be enough supply in the entire Canadian market to facilitate about 6 weeks. So that would be 6 weeks inventory starting in March for the entire Canadian market based on usage.
Health Canada tells CBC News supply of these drugs remains limited, especially in powder form, due to significant demand. But Canadian market suppliers are expecting more stock over the coming months. Pharmacists say supply chain issues are a constant worry.
I think that people have to realize that this is not going to go away. This problem is not going to go away. I mean, it was definitely predicted at the beginning of COVID, and supply chain is a big issue.
An issue they hope is resolved, at least partly, next month. Yasmin Gantam, CBC News, Vancouver.
A small First Nation community on northwestern Vancouver Island has declared a state of emergency over what it calls the unrelenting impact of drugs and alcohol. The Ahatasat First Nation near Zabalos is in crisis. Leaders say they've lost nearly an entire generation of young people to overdose and addiction. In the community of about 100, 6 young people have died over the past year or so, both those living on the nation and in homeless and in distant cities. The chief is calling an emergency as part of efforts to try to save more lives.
It's a generation, it's a whole generation, and what are we going to do next? It's a health problem that we can't seem to tackle it on our own. Without help, we're kind of sitting ducks.
Chief John says his people need support that they currently are not getting. A vigil for the most recent Ihatasat member to be killed by drugs will be held in Campbell River tonight. The BC Green Party is urging the BC government to address healthcare accessibility issues on North Vancouver Island and across BC.
We need to focus on the health and well-being of British Columbians, and to achieve that, we need to ensure that the health and well-being of doctors and healthcare professionals is also being taken care of.
First to Know is calling for reforms to make healthcare more accessible. The Greens have been pushing for physician assistants in recent weeks. Advocates say the role of PAs in BC could help fill healthcare gaps. Physician assistants work under doctors and can help in offices, in surgery, and write prescriptions. We have breaking news out of Canada's largest city tonight. Toronto Mayor John Tory has announced he is stepping down after admitting to an affair with a former staff member.
The relationship ended by mutual consent earlier this year. During the course of our relationship some time ago, the employee decided to pursue employment outside City Hall and secured a job elsewhere. I recognize that permitting this relationship to develop was a serious error in judgment on my part. It came at a time when Barb, my wife of 40-plus years, and I were enduring many lengthy periods apart while I carried out my responsibilities during the pandemic.
The Toronto Star reported that Tory and the staffer were in a relationship for months during the pandemic. His lawyer wrote in a later release that the relationship ended by mutual consent earlier this year. Tory calls it a serious error in judgment and will now leave the mayor's chair. A beloved children's doctor here in Vancouver has died after living with cancer. Paul Moxham, a surgeon at BC Children's Hospital, was known for his ability to put children at ease. As John Hernandez reports, he made a lasting impression on countless families who are forever grateful for his care.
My name is Paul Moxham, and I'm a pediatric otolaryngologist at BC Children's Hospital.
Paul Moxham went into work with a smile just about every day, and you could say it was infectious.
One of my favorite things is actually not surgery, it's seeing patients in the clinic. I have a number of silly little magic tricks and things that I employ during that to make them a little more comfortable.
Moxham was a proud doctor at BC Children's Hospital, known for being down to earth, humble, and always good for a laugh.
That is definitely one of the big lessons I took away, the way he used humor to just improve life.
Like many parents, Angela Toth met with many doctors to find the right fit for her daughter who has Down syndrome. The search stopped as soon as they saw Dr. Moxham.
He treated her like a princess, and he oozed attention and joy on her, and she ate it up.
I do treat every child that is in my practice as if they were a member of my family. All I want for them is that which I would want for one of my 2 daughters or my wife or anyone else.
A passion and warmth that many kids could feel when he walked into the room.
My daughter has this sort of sixth sense of
understanding and knowing individuals and where their hearts are at. And she immediately was put at ease.
Moxham was diagnosed with brain cancer in 2021, a battle he fought for 16 months. His family says he never wasted a minute and spent his remaining days laughing and sharing stories, the same lessons he instilled on the families he helped through challenging times.
If you're not crying, you might as well be laughing, like I have said before. He did hard things and he did them well. And I just found that really inspiring. And I wanted to be like that too.
Moxham died on January 13th.
He really left a legacy after 23 years on site. He trained countless residents, fellows, people in the clinic that really he showed how you can put your best foot forward and really put the patient at the center of care.
We can think, we hopefully were impactful today and we did some good work.
Paul Moxham leaves behind a wife, 2 daughters, and immeasurable gratitude from the families he served. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
Kuljeet Kaila is here with our BC-wide weather forecast. The first look at some clouds that were showing off today.
They were. They put on quite a show, and the party was started with a little bit of sunshine because it is Friday after all. Here's our time lapse of the day. We escaped any kind of rain. We had a risk of a thunderstorm. That didn't happen as well. We did have a bit of wind by the water. It looked a lot colder than it actually was. It was quite humid today, and the temperatures are way above seasonal for this time of year. We'll take a look at some of our data for today. 11 degrees was our high today. Average for this time of the year is only around 7.7, even our low way above average. Next rainfall, though, will come Sunday morning. There's about a 70% risk of rain overnight and into the early morning hours, and humidity very high, 70%, so lots of moisture in the air still. Current conditions outside, cloudy across the south coast and central coast, and just near Vanderhoof, there is an air quality advisory due to industrial issues. 5:24, the sun went down with a mix of sun and clouds. Clouds when we wake up tomorrow at 7:28 for sunrise, and a mix of sun and clouds for tomorrow with a high of 7. How long will these unseasonably temperatures last? I'll have those details coming up next, Dan, in the 7-day forecast.
Sounds great. Thanks, Kuljeet.
You're welcome.
It's not always easy to say, hey, actually, I am really struggling.
More than just culture shock. Moving to a new country can often lead to isolation, but a local food bank is lending a line. That's next. And thanks for watching our commercial-free live stream tonight. Good to have you here. An aviation enthusiast in Alberta has an old Fokker F-28 plane parked in his yard. He says it's part of a larger effort to honor and preserve that province's aviation history.
People ask me why somebody would put a giant airplane on their property. And my response is always, because they said you couldn't or it couldn't be done. I'm Jesse Millington, and I'm an aviation enthusiast and a preservationist. And that is my aircraft, the Fokker F-28. This aircraft here was built in 1972. It flew all over Europe. It's flown all over South America. It's flown all over in North Africa. It was purchased by Canadian Regional and flew until its last flight when it was flown to Saskatoon on October 25th, 2002. Nobody had ever moved an F-28, especially taken it apart with the landing gear on and moved it 900 kilometers over a province and a half with just basic skills. When we first started doing this, you realize the spectrum of what you're about to do when you have these 100-ton cranes show up and they're like, well, we're doing this. And you look at it and go, oh no, this is for real. And oh my God, our team is doing this. And oh my God, this is a reality. We had to have a special low beam trailer that had to come in, an extending deck trailer specifically meant for giant over length loads. We had to make sure everything was good so the height didn't interfere with certain traffic lights or power lines. There's a lot of stuff you have to do in order to do something like this. You get it back on the ground, the cranes are removed, and you sit there and go, wow, that was insane. I can't believe we all did this. When I was a young kid, myself and my dad would always go to the airport, and I've just always loved aviation ever since. So a lot of people have asked me about the whole Airbnb thing. And yes, it's hilarious. Yes, it's cliche. I get it. I'm not an Airbnb guy. I didn't do this to make money. I didn't do this to show about. I did this strictly to preserve and remember and for all the people involved in this kind of stuff. The other aircraft that I have on the property as well, it's a Percival Pembroke RM9. It flew for the Belgian Air Force, and then in about the mid-70s it was transferred over, and it actually ended up flying for the very well documented Air America. I actually owned that aircraft before I owned this one, but logistically and due to COVID and all the rest of that stuff, it took a while to get it up here. My next door neighbors, luckily they're hidden by some trees and bushes right next to us, so they think it's kind of cool, I guess, and we're all on the same kind of craziness level, so it works out well. I've had the Hutterite colonies out here stop in, and I guess I'm the big talk some days at the local A&W in Vulcan and Okotoks. It's better to be talked about than forgot about, I guess.
For new immigrants, settling in Canada is often seen as the dream. But deep isolation is very common, often fueled by language barriers and a lack of resources to integrate into the community. Tarnjeet Parmar has more on what one Metro Vancouver group is doing to make that transition easier.
It's a need that's only growing with more people immigrating from India to this province.
People didn't know that there are a lot of resources available. So that's why we created this all program, which is called Let's Talk. Talking is our medicine.
The Guru Nanak Food Bank has long been a safe space for those who rely on donations to get by. And now the group is trying to do more by launching a helpline in English and Punjabi. Nearly 155,000 new immigrants settled in Metro Vancouver from 2016 to 2021. Most of them came from India, pursuing the Canadian dream on their own. Councillor Manjot Maan says a major hurdle is often taking that first step to reach out and ask for help.
You know, I have found with the few people that have come in for counseling, it's hard to talk about that with everyone back home because they are excited for you, and there's this sense of hope that you're here in this new place and you're settling in and it must be wonderful. So it's not always easy to say, hey, actually, I am really struggling.
She says another issue is the cost.
Counseling isn't covered. You know, it would be out of pocket for most students. So sometimes the people who have inquired have only been able to come in for single sessions.
For its part, the food bank is also hosting monthly seminars for immigrants, providing resources and information on issues like housing, employment, and health.
Immigrants have questions regarding their resumes, their employments, their housing, and how to go to the doctor, to see the doctor. We get so many calls every time. We want to see the doctors not available. Emergency is so busy. So there are so many concerns which need to be addressed.
Including letting them know they are not alone. Tarnjeet Parmar, CBC News, Surrey.
You may have seen tip options increasing at your favorite restaurant. But there's another way some businesses are taking a bigger bite out of customers. They come in the form of added fees. And as David Common explains, Marketplace has found one destination in Canada that stands out for just how many places charge them and for how much.
Canada's most popular tourist destination churns millions of dollars, and at some of its hotels, restaurants, and attractions, there's an extra fee tacked on next to the taxes. So small on the bill, many miss it.
To me, I think it's clearly deceptive.
We asked staff and servers what it was for and heard all kinds of explanations.
So that's the daily mandatory tax. I mean, like daily mandatory charges.
No, it takes to recycle.
So it goes towards the city, like maintenance, fireworks and stuff like that.
Not true. To be clear, these mystery fees aren't a tax. They're just an add-on for the business, who then get to decide how to spend the money. The business gets to keep it.
Wow, just to make money off of a tourist. That's crazy.
We could pick 3 places. One doesn't charge it at all, one charges 10%, one charges 12%.
That's insane.
That's crazy. Marketplace has actually been tracking the added fees for years. In that time, the list of businesses charging them has grown, so too has the percentage charged. And frontline staff face questions.
It's a total cash grab. I hate it when people ask me that. I just cringe every time, and I'm totally honest about it because that's what it is.
Where do you think it's going?
Tax.
Right.
Our team found many restaurants don't warn customers about the extra fees on menus or signage until it shows up on the bill.
No, I don't think that's a good idea.
The city's longtime mayor says he can't stop it, but thinks provincial authorities should be scrutinizing the add-on fees.
I would hope that they'd investigate to find out, first of all, if it's allowed, if it's legal, and the question is if it's a good idea.
Days in, Milestones, Embassy Suites, and Starbucks tell us those extra fees are unique to the independently operated locations in Niagara Falls. The Radisson says their 4% resort fee is on the low end, going towards amenities guests can enjoy. Still, these are fees many customers don't understand. David Common, CBC News, Niagara Falls, Ontario.
Now, for the full investigation, including a look into other extra added fees added onto your bills, tune into Marketplace tonight at 8 p.m. right here on CBC TV or on CBC Gem.
I've seen things I wish I could unsee. I felt things I wish I could unfeel.
People in Turkey and Syria continue to reel after the devastating earthquakes. More than 22,000 have been killed. Coming up, more on the heroic rescues that continue in the face of such devastation.
They sang the words for old time's sake. Never before have they sung with such euphoria.
We see this as a good first step towards the liberation of our brothers in South Africa, obviously.
We have achieved at least one significant step on the road to the abolition of the apartheid system and the institution of a free and democratic South Africa based on the equality of all people, regardless of race or color.
There were doubts, though, about the white South African government.
I'm a skeptic, and looking at their past history, they've never been known to be reliable and honest.
There were also doubts about Mandela, the leader, and criticism came from both extremes.
Yes, I find it was too much liberal speaking. It's not Mandela that went to jail. This is not Mandela that stood for himself when he was supposed to be sentenced to death and talked as a proud African man.
My concern as a South African is that Mr. Mandela, in his speech this morning, tended to be more partisan in terms of talking about the African National Congress. What we are fighting for in South Africa is democracy. We are not fighting to replace apartheid with the ANC.
One by one, we will tear down. But those doubts can be addressed tomorrow. Tonight, they're singing and dancing for joy that Nelson Mandela is free at last. May Wong, CBC News, Vancouver.
The earthquake deaths in Turkey and Syria have now passed 22,000 as search teams work through obliterated buildings for a fifth day. As we showed you earlier, there were stunning rescues today, including 9 children. But hopes of finding more survivors are fading. Millions of meals have been given out, but many people still haven't been reached. Turkey's president today expressed sadness that the rescue effort was unable to proceed faster. And with tents behind him, he vowed the area will be rebuilt within a year. Rebuilding is expected to be a colossal undertaking. Our CBC News crew visited one city today and saw almost nothing but destruction. Chris Brown reports from Antakya.
Contemplate a city of 500,000 people where almost everyone becomes instantly homeless. And that is Antakya. On Ataturk Street, buildings fell on top of each other like toppling dominoes. And across the city, we hardly saw any structures that looked habitable. Help arrived here late. There are now tents in a central park for shelter. There's food and a few generators to charge phones. Volunteers like Evrim Shakudz are trying to provide the essentials of life. She says the disaster has been especially cruel to women. When women are asking us for underwear or sanitary pads, they're crying. They feel shame, she says. They can't use toilets, and when they ask for toilet paper again and again, they feel shame. Amongst the ruins of another block, we met Özgür Keseci, who was hoping for a miracle. He now lives in Germany but grew up here. His mother is trapped somewhere under all of that debris.
But after I passed the shock, I now feel, I don't feel anything simply. It's just, I don't know. It's, I've seen things I wish I could unsee. I felt things I wish I could unfeel. I just don't feel anything at the moment.
Searchers did find some items from her apartment, a bottle of beer with his name on it, and photographs of them together. How do people here get past this? He doesn't have an answer.
I also have other family members that are alive, and I have no clue how can I support them or whether they should continue living here. At the moment, it's just like, I don't know, it's empty feelings. I don't know what to think.
At the makeshift relief camp, Dr. Metin Budak was handing out medication to those who need it, but he said it won't help with the shock that will inevitably set in. The real psychological collapse will come afterwards, he said. We must also take care of the garbage and all the hygienic problems, or there's going to be an epidemic of disease. It's raw for him, too. We asked how he's doing, and he broke down. People have been living in Antakya for thousands of years, but time and again on our trip, people told us they thought this might be the end. Rebuilding after this might be impossible, and the city could be abandoned. Chris Brown, CBC News, Antakya.
In Syria, the relief effort following that massive earthquake is being complicated by the ongoing civil war. The government has reportedly approved aid of delivery across the front lines. As Abby Kuavasan reports, the first UN convoy entered Syria's quake region yesterday.
Aid is trickling into northwest Syria. The UN has confirmed 14 trucks carrying emergency relief crossed into the northwest today, an official confirming the vehicles are meant for Idlib. This follows a small delivery on Thursday of medicine, blankets, and shelter kits. But these shipments will not be enough for the more than 4 million people, many displaced by Syria's civil war, who already relied heavily on aid to survive. The World Food Program says it is now running out of stock for the population there. There is only one way into opposition-held areas. The UN Security Council has a cross-border resolution in place which allowed aid to move through for several years.
In Syria, we've reached 43,000 people with ready-to-eat food, and ready-to-eat food is ongoing to another 100,000 people. We also have stocks with our partners in northwest Syria for 1.4 million people.
Some of their viewers may remember this one miraculous story. A newborn baby girl was found alive in the village of Genderes. She now has a name. It's Aya. Aya was rescued on Monday, about 10 hours after the quake hit. She was cradled in her mother's arms, a mother that Aya will never know because she died. Aya's father also perished, along with all 4 of her siblings. She does have a great uncle, the hospital says, who will take her once she's healthy enough. Certainly a story of great hope. But again, this rescue took place on Monday. It's Friday now. For every Aya, there are very many other children who will not be so lucky. There are sanctions on Syria, too, and the United States says it will now grant a blanket license to allow for any earthquake-related aid. But again, concern the aid won't reach the people who need it. Abby Kwodawson, CBC News, London.
Back in this province, many Canadians joined Quebec in mourning of the deaths of 2 children killed earlier this week when a bus crashed into a daycare near Montreal. 6 other children were hurt. As Chloe Rinaldi reports, a special mass was held today to honor the victims and their families.
A community coming together in grief in memory of the 2 children killed at the daycare on Wednesday. The local priest says he knew immediately he needed to do something.
I invite the people who can come to this celebration, and all together we can be in solidarity with this family.
At the Saint Rose de Lima Church in Laval, Pastor Michel Bouchard says the community is trying to make sense of this senseless act. This week, a public transit bus rammed into a daycare, killing 2 children and injuring 6 others. The 51-year-old driver now facing charges including first-degree murder. For Bouchard, there's a personal connection.
I baptized one of the child who died maybe 3 years ago. And I will celebrate his funeral in 1 week. So the situation is hard for me and it's hard for the family because it's only 4 years old.
The young boy, Jacob Gauthier, was described as a happy boy. Some family members, still in disbelief, were among the mourners.
Quand j'ai su ça, ça m'a jeté à terre. J'ai dit, ça se peut pas, ça se peut pas.
His great-grandmother says she fell to the floor when she heard the news. The boy's great-uncle shattered again after having recently lost his own son. It's overwhelming to see how kind people are, he says. Those in attendance say it's the least they can do.
I came in solidarity for the families. Being a parent myself, it's incomprehensible.
Standing with the families as they wait for answers about what led to this tragedy. Chloe Rinaldi, CBC News, Laval, Quebec.
He is an award-winning gospel singer. Coming up, Marcus Mosley explores the themes of social justice and resistance in music. You'll want to hear this.
Land Back is a CBC original podcast where we uncover land theft in Canada and look at how Indigenous people are taking it all back. Land Back is out now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
For Black History Month, we are showcasing the voices of 4 Black musicians. Each Saturday on CBC Radio 1, they will share their favorites with you on a show called Revelations. This week, we hear from Marcus Mosley, a gospel singer who came of age in the U.S. He explores the foundations of Black music and the very sounds of resistance and social justice.
I'm Marcus Mosley. I'm a singer, songwriter, former missionary, traveler, jack of many trades. If I were to say one thing, I'm just a person who's committed to sharing love and humanity and empathy, encouraging people to care about other people through my music. We call it Revelations because it's transgenerational. I'm representing sort of the older generation. I'm 70 years old. So I'm sort of representing the older generation and the foundations of the music from Africa, from the slave period, from the civil rights era. I want them to just hear the sounds, hear the different styles of music, hear the words, hear the spirit behind them as the different people sing them. They come out of various periods of time. Some of the music is contemporary, some of it goes way back and it's got that old sort of gritty blues sound to it. Some of it is very church, very anthemic. To hear that and feel that, and just to get a sense of this is how Black people from that period of time, these are some of the ways we responded to the world in which we lived, through music. Like you'll hear Mahalia Jackson singing How I Got Over.
How I got over, how did I make it over?
It's about no matter what comes into your life, God will help you get through it. And then at the end of your life, you'll look back over your life and think, my soul looks back and wonder how I got over. I've got songs like the Alabama Bus, which is talking about the experience of being told to go to the back of the bus and how people dealt with that.
Stop that Alabama bus, I don't wanna ride. Stop that Alabama bus, I don't wanna ride.
I was born in Texas during the time when Jim Crow laws were in full effect. One of the things that was strong for me there was my mother. My mother always had a song under her breath. She just kept this song going. And as a child, I observed that, and I learned that what she was doing was keeping herself spiritually centered, and mostly it was about also keeping me safe when we were together. Also, I worked in the fields, cotton fields with my mom, and so as a child, I remember being out there and hearing them all joining in together and singing those old spirituals, you know. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, or soon I will be done with the trouble of the world, are all different kinds of gospel tunes or spirituals they actually sang in the field. Black history doesn't just start with slavery. Black history is rich and full. My people have had an impact on North American culture more than just being slaves. We are creators, innovators, scientists, doctors, all of those things.
We come to it, we must confess that we are the possible. We are the miraculous, the true wonder of this world.
Maya Angelou, oh my God, she exposed me to that world, which taught me that I can dream big for myself too. And what her goal was to inspire young Black children to see themselves as more than the world was telling them they were. To inspire us to dream and to imagine ourselves doing whatever it is that was in our hearts to do. And that's the message that I think, that's the job that I think I have and other musicians have, is to remind people of that truth, that within each of us is the potential for great compassion, for great generosity, for great beauty. And music is one of the ways through which we can express that.
And throughout February, Revelations is special radio programming on CBC Radio 1 on the joy and history of Black music. Episodes air 5 p.m. on Saturday nights on CBC Radio 1. Marcus Mosley, who you met there, will host tomorrow. Just in time for the weekend, Kuljeet Kaila is here to tell us what will be happening as we're out and about or indoors on Sunday. There's a big game on.
Oh, that's right. Perfectly timed then. Today we saw clouds. We had a risk of thunderstorms. That didn't happen. We do have lots of cloud along the most of the coast of British Columbia for the island as well. And that's what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm going to stop the clock here for early Sunday morning. That's when this precipitation is going to cross over Greater Victoria and into the lower mainland. And we're going to see some scattered showers for Sunday. Perfect day to sit in and watch Rihanna and that other game that's happening for conditions right now across the... Oh, I want to move ahead. Current temperatures outside right now sitting at 7 degrees for Vancouver and most of Metro Vancouver, 8 degrees out in Abbotsford, seasonally warmer than what we're used to for this time of year. Our high today was 11 degrees. It should be around 7 degrees. Across the board for Canada, also mild temperatures for Alberta, 5 degrees in Edmonton, 3 in Calgary, and that's with the wind chill, minus 15, of course, in Winnipeg. So mild across the entire country. For tomorrow across BC, we will see a little bit of snow mixed with rain for Prince George, 1 degree there as well as for Williams Lake. Sunshine for the southern interior and the Kootenay region, and a bit of sunshine, but cold conditions up in Dease Lake, -1 up there. And for us, like I said, Saturday, clouds, pretty much what we saw today. The average seasonal temperature will drop down to 7 degrees tomorrow, so it'll start to feel like it's supposed to for this time of year. And then the temperature starts to decrease for Sunday when we get a little bit of rain. Sun returns for the early part of next week. And look at these temperatures. Overnight temperatures are going to start to really decline. So we're going to get some cold weather before we get back into the rain by the end of next week. Dan?
Okay, I'll stay in on Sunday. It'll be fine.
Yes.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Some encouraging news ahead of the weekend. Statistics Canada is reporting a whopping boost to the economy. 150,000 new jobs added last month alone. And most were full-time in the wholesale, retail, healthcare, and manufacturing sectors. In addition, wages are up 4.5% over the last year, and the unemployment rate is holding steady at 5%. All that to say the labor market is surpassing most economists' expectations.
I would be disappointed to see it go away, but I'm prepared for that.
Model train store may be chewing for the last time. More on the potential end of the line coming up.
I'm seeing 15 huts where there would normally be about 100.
Wow.
But in 2 weeks, it'll all be full up again.
Because the temperature's getting cold again.
Absolutely. I'm Al McIntyre. I'm the president of the Petrie Island Ice Fishing Association, and we're at Bait Shop Bay at Petrie Island. This is old school fishing. Obviously, I'd like to see more because a lot of my friends are anxious to get out on the ice, but right now it's nice, it's quiet. We're about 2.5 weeks behind because of all the snow and the slushy weather we've had.
Can you put your lines in for us now, Al?
Absolutely.
Just give me the play-by-play as you do it.
Well, I'm going to take my line here, which is on a gadget called a tip-up. I'm going to put some minnows on these hooks here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to drop them slowly into the water.
Uh-huh.
And as it goes down, I know that I'm about 4.5 to 5 feet deep in the water.
And in a perfect world, what big fish would latch on?
A walleye or a pike. I do it because I love it. You can get outside. It's also a place where you can come and spend time quietly.
Now let's look at our fishing line here.
Mm-hmm.
From inside. So you're in the warm hut, and when your jigger thing moves, you know you got a fish.
That's right.
Okay.
I come running out and get it.
A model train store may be pulling into the station for the last time. Vancouver's Central Hobbies has been a place for miniature train enthusiasts to let off some steam since the 1980s. The owner, though, is soon hanging up his conductor's hat. But Hal Kinsey says someone else may take over.
11:42 from 20, thank you. I woke up one day and I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I love it, but I don't want to do it anymore. Well, I want somebody who's going to buy it to know enough about the business and the hobby to keep it going. I would be disappointed to see it go away, but I'm prepared for that. When I started off, I had a little bit of radio control stuff and a bunch of plastic models, but mostly it was all trains. Most of the details in here are things that you would buy and use on a train setup. Mm-hmm. All these vehicles, you put them together and you paint them and they'd be part of the scene on your train layout.
That's terrible. It's the only hobby shop left in the area that has a lot of trains. This was my happy place.
I appreciate the customers. There's many people who have enjoyed coming in here, and I've enjoyed having them.
Thanks for looking.
All right. Let's hope he finds a buyer. Who else has a dad or an uncle who has a box of old miniature trains in their garage? Yep, I said it, Dad. Thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. You can watch this newscast on CBC Gem, our free app, as well as on Facebook, YouTube, and our website, of course, cbc.ca/BC. Zara Premji will have your late local news at 11 o'clock right after the National, so please tune in before you turn in. Good night. Have a good weekend.